Hi friends, today I want to show you the process behind designing a vinyl cover and poster for Mitski's new album Laurel Hell. This all started with me firstly interpreting the album and really listening to all the songs. So Laurel Hell is Mitski's new indie music album, which really explores the struggles with fame, femininity, and existing as a woman. And of course, any design process just starts with sketching, just dropping down some really quick ideas, and as you can see, all of my ideas were pretty similar, and I've sort of labeled them as cliche, don't like, basic, or maybe. And then I started really exploring each idea, and I started getting some refined ideas. So for my first ideation, I started with just using Mitski's portrait and outlining her key features, and then just really getting down some basic shapes and form of her body. I was trying to play with color a little bit, so I was using different backgrounds. I would look back and forth at her portrait to see if I'm getting features right, and then I would just really start to have a look at the details and decoration. I added the Laurel Hell's flowers and I put them in her chest as if they're puncturing her, because it represented how I thought she feels. And then I added some quick lines, some sketches, and that was my first ideation done. The reason why I didn't end up using this ideation is because I just thought I could do better. I thought that I could just maybe push myself a little more, and I started to experiment with some handmade materials, handmade items, and I started to do lino. I sketched out what I actually want to lino, and you can see that I was just trying to get some basic shapes and forms. I didn't want to make it too complicated, but it ended up being complicated. You can see me here just cutting out my lino and wetting my paper, and then I just started printing. I didn't film that process because it was really messy, but here the results, they didn't turn out too great. I'm not a big fan. This really taught me a lot about how difficult printing is, and I really enjoyed getting my hands in and working with my hands instead of digital. I still ended up with a really good sketch, and I decided to just dress it up a little bit. Started with me firstly looking at Mitski's face, outlining it, and just getting some basic shapes done. And then I just started to experiment with the lines. I decided to make her poofy, add some flowers, add some lines, add some decorative elements, and this was my second ideation done. Again, the reason why I didn't end up doing this ideation is because I thought that I could push it even further. I just really didn't like it that much. I think it was a bit too basic, but I enjoyed drawing it. I did. Now moving on to my final ideation, and I decided to do something completely different. I didn't illustrate for this. I just did my makeup and I decided to do a photo shoot. Thank you for my brother for helping me with this. After the photo shoot, I scanned in my dry flowers, my collection of dry flowers, and then I scanned in some scrambled pieces of paper, and I ended up with some pretty good scans. I then just went on Photoshop and started editing. So the editing process was quite straightforward. I played with the levels, played with curves, I added some noise, played with brightness and balance and saturation. After that, I decided to start composing my scrap pieces of paper and my dry flowers, and I really just went for it. I didn't really have a composition in mind. I think it ended up looking really good. At the end, I decided that I will add some illustrations, so in Procreate, I illustrated some rough sketch of my face and added that on top of my cover. I think it looks really good, and it has a certain character, and I was really happy with it. Moving on to the track list, I decided to use the same picture, just zoomed in into the forest. I used a cursive font. Forgot to say that I used a cursive font in the front of the cover as well. So I used a cursive font, and then I used a typewriter font for all the tracks. And again, similar process. I ended up just putting flowers around and scrappy pieces of paper, and it looked really good. I was really happy with it. So for my poster idea, I decided to use a different picture, but essentially have the same idea as my cover, which is just exactly the same scrap pieces of paper and a similar drawing on top of it. After completing that, I decided that it doesn't look very postery, so I experimented a little bit more, and I decided that I'm not going to have a photograph in my poster, I'm just going to have an illustration. That way, this achieves two things. It has a different look, but a very similar aesthetic, and so you can tell that it belongs to the same brand, but really it's two different pieces of art, and I really like that about my poster. So this wraps up my process video. I'd like to say thank you to my tutors for helping me out and guiding me through this process, my brother for helping me take the pictures, and I would just like to add a little reflection at the end. So while I really love the idea and how this poster turned out, I think next time it would be beneficial to add a bit more depth to the poster, maybe add black point, because the poster really doesn't have that much contrast. It sort of all blends in. Also, in the ideal world, I would like to see this idea applied, but with the artist's face, not my face. But I think this communicates the idea of the album pretty well. And yeah, thank you for watching.